The 5 horrifying truths about narcissists that only awakened empaths know. The most dangerous predator isn't the one that bays its teeth. It's the one that convinces you it's the victim. You felt that strange unease before, haven't you? Walking into a room where everything looks perfectly normal, yet something deep inside tells you otherwise. Everyone else seems captivated by the narcissist's charm, while your gut screams, danger. That feeling is not paranoia, no matter how much the world has trained you to dismiss it. It is your awakened empath self picking up signals that others are completely blind to. Being an awakened empath is both a gift and a curse, because it makes you a natural target for narcissists. Why? Because you possess something that terrifies them. You can pierce through the illusion they work so hard to maintain. You're like a finely tuned human lie detector, sensing micro-expressions, subtle energy shifts, and inconsistencies in their stories. You notice what most people miss: the cracks in their mask, the fractures in their carefully constructed persona. And in this awareness lies both your strength and your vulnerability. The truths you discover about narcissists aren't the ones that get shared on social media or in casual conversations. These are not the obvious red flags that everyone warns about. No, what you see are the devastating realities buried so deep that most people will never recognize them. The layers of pain, the cycles of self-destruction, and the hollow core that explains why they behave the way they do. These are the truths that only awakened empaths can feel, because your sensitivity allows you to read the silent language of suffering. Today, I'm going to share 5 of those heartbreaking truths. Truths that most people can't even begin to comprehend because they are too dark, too intricate, and too painful to face. Let's begin with the first one. Narcissists are drowning in loneliness, even as they push away anyone who dares to love them. Behind all that bravado, behind the arrogance and manipulation, is a crushing emptiness. This isn't just the loneliness of being physically alone, it's an existential void. A life spent wearing masks means no one has ever truly known them, and deep down, they know this. You've probably felt this in fleeting moments when their mask slipped. Those rare instances when you saw fear flicker in their eyes or heard a tremor in their voice. That wasn't weakness, that was truth leaking through. They crave love more than anything, yet they sabotage every chance at real intimacy because nothing terrifies them more than being fully seen. They operate under a silent belief: if you truly know me, you will abandon me. And to avoid that pain, they strike first. They pick fights. They manufacture chaos. They push you away long before you can walk away. You might wonder, if they long for love so desperately, why don't they just accept it? The answer lies in the shame they bury so deep they can't even face it themselves. Outwardly, they cling to an illusion of perfection, but hidden in the depths of their soul is the belief that they are unworthy of real love. Rather than risk rejection, they choose isolation. Over and over, they repeat this pattern until they are surrounded by people yet utterly alone. And here's the second truth, a truth that will shatter any lingering hope you had of breaking through to them. Narcissists are incapable of genuine gratitude. When you pour kindness into their emptiness, they don't see it as love, they see it as manipulation. In their mind, if you're giving without asking for anything, something must be wrong with you. They interpret generosity as weakness or as a hidden agenda. Every act of care becomes, to them, another reason to distrust you. That's why no matter how much you give, it will never be enough. It will never soften them. It will never awaken their humanity. Narcissists are incapable of true gratitude, no matter how much kindness you show them. In fact, they convince themselves that your genuine care is nothing more than a performance. This isn't just a misunderstanding, it is projection in its purest form. They believe you are scheming, that you have some hidden agenda, because they cannot fathom what real goodness looks like. To them, everyone plays the same manipulative game they do. Authentic generosity simply doesn't compute in their world. If you've ever loved a narcissist, you know the heartbreak of this realization. You gave without limits. You were patient, forgiving, and unwavering in your efforts to stand by them. Yet, no matter what you did, there was never any real appreciation. Even in those rare moments when they said, "Thank you," You could feel the emptiness behind it. Their words sounded hollow because they were simply going through the motions while, inside, they were rewriting the narrative, telling themselves you had an angle. Every act of kindness you offered was dissected, analyzed, and twisted into proof that you were no different from them. This is the cruel irony. The very love that could have healed them becomes a weapon in their hands. When you extend compassion, they don't see it as love. They see it as leverage. They assume you're trying to gain power over them because that's how their mind works. Their own manipulative nature becomes the lens through which they interpret your intentions. And because of that, they project their darkness onto you, convincing themselves that your goodness is fake. What makes this dynamic even more disturbing is the duality of their reaction. Your kindness disgusts them because, to them, it feels weak. Yet at the same time, it thrills them because they can exploit it. Your empathy becomes ammunition. It turns into the very thing they use to control, degrade, and dominate you. Have you noticed how they often become cruel right after you've done something loving? That's not an accident. It's a strategy. They've identified your compassion as both your greatest strength and your greatest vulnerability. They know exactly how to use it against you. To a narcissist, gratitude is not part of the equation. Calculation is. Every gesture you make is simply an opportunity for them to manipulate. And this leads us to another painful truth, perhaps the one that awakened empaths feel most deeply. Narcissists are haunted by a self they never became. Beneath all the arrogance and hostility lies a ghost, the person they might have been if life had gone differently. We call this the real self, the authentic version of them that got buried under layers of defense and denial. They know, on some level, that they are not living in alignment with who they truly are. They sense the emptiness behind the mask, but they don't know how to take it off. If you've ever watched them during an unguarded moment, you've probably felt it too. A flash of sadness in their eyes, a wistful story about a dream they abandoned, a quiet longing for something they can't even name. That isn't manipulation, it's grief. They mourn the child who wasn't loved unconditionally. They mourn the adult they might have become if someone had cared enough to nurture them instead of break them. And as an awakened empath, you feel this grief almost as if it were your own. It pierces you because you know what it's like to yearn for love, and you want to save them from their pain. But here's the tragedy. The very defenses that once protected them have become a cage. Their patterns of control and self-preservation keep them from the connection they desperately need. They hate the damage they cause. They hate themselves for being this way. And yet, they don't want to change. Not really. It's as if they are trapped in a prison of their own making, with walls built from fear and bars forged from shame. The behaviors that once kept them safe now ensure that they will always be alone. And if that isn't enough, there's another truth that drives everything they do. Narcissists live in constant terror of being exposed. The fear that you might discover they're not extraordinary, just ordinary, haunts them like a shadow they can't outrun. Narcissists live in constant terror of being seen as ordinary. Their entire identity rests on the illusion of being exceptional because, to them, mediocrity feels like annihilation. You've likely felt that frantic energy radiating from them, the relentless push to stand out, to prove they are irreplaceable, to ensure they remain the center of admiration. It's not just a preference, it's survival. Their need to be viewed as unique, superior, or extraordinary is so deeply ingrained that even a moment of feeling average can send them into a silent panic. As an awakened empath, you can sense this fear even when they try to hide it behind bravado or charm. You've probably witnessed the subtle shifts in their demeanor, the anxiety that flickers in their eyes when they believe they've blended into the background. This dread shapes nearly everything they do. They cannot accept being loved simply for who they are because they don't believe their true self is enough. That is the tragedy. They tell you that you are not enough, but the truth is, deep down, they are haunted by the belief that they are not enough. To compensate, they chase extremes. They strive to be the smartest in the room, the most successful, the most attractive, or, in the case of a covert narcissist, the most victimized or misunderstood. Anything to maintain a sense of significance. Yet here lies the cruel irony. Their humanity, Their imperfections, struggles, and quiet, ordinary moments is what would make them truly lovable. But they will never allow that side to show. They've built their entire existence on performance, crafting a flawless facade of specialness that keeps them perpetually isolated from real connection. Behind the mask, they are exhausted, drained from living a 24/7 charade, yet unable to stop because their survival depends on it. And then there is the final truth, the one most awakened empaths struggle to accept. Narcissists do not change. Deep down, they don't even want to. This is not because change is impossible. It is because their entire sense of self would have to shatter for it to happen. For a narcissist, genuine transformation feels like psychological death. And in a way, it is. To heal, they would need to dismantle their false identity piece by piece, confront the full scope of harm they've inflicted, feel the weight of real remorse, and start over from nothing. For them, that is more terrifying than any pain they currently endure. You've likely sensed this resistance, even in their most convincing displays of contrition. They may cry, make promises, or even sit in a therapist's chair. But at a deeper level, you can feel the truth. They're not there to change. They're there to learn new strategies to maintain control. Temporary improvements are just that, temporary. They might morph into the version of themselves you always hoped for, but only long enough to keep you hooked. These are surface-level adjustments, not profound shifts. And so the harsh reality sets in. The only person who truly changes in this dynamic is you. You become more forgiving, more patient, more drained. Meanwhile, they remain anchored in the same destructive patterns because that is what feels safe. Narcissists would rather cling to dysfunction than risk the vulnerability required for authentic change. For awakened empaths, this is the hardest truth of all, to accept that your love, your compassion, and your unwavering belief in their potential cannot save someone who refuses to be saved. That is not your failure. It is simply the nature of the prison they've built for themselves, a prison they have no intention of leaving. These truths do not excuse the chaos they bring into your life, but they help explain the profound grief you feel when you look at them. Because beneath the arrogance and the cruelty, you can sense the sadness of a soul that is lost, and the heartbreak of knowing that no amount of love can bring it home. You need to understand something fundamental. Narcissists are trapped in cycles of their own making, patterns of behavior that corrode relationships and leave destruction in their wake. But this does not mean you should sacrifice your peace, your dignity, or your well-being in an attempt to save them. The real tragedy is not that these individuals are misunderstood victims of circumstance. It is that, when given the chance to heal, they consistently choose to remain in the very patterns that perpetuate harm. They may have suffered wounds in the past. Yes, that is true. But they have now become the wounders. And that is not acceptable. What makes this dynamic even more heartbreaking is their resistance to authentic healing. Every opportunity for growth, for self-awareness, for transformation is met with deflection, denial, or manipulation. As an awakened empath, you have the rare ability to perceive this truth beneath the surface, and that gift can feel as heavy as it is profound. You see the complexity of their struggle, and that insight may have driven you to try harder, to pour more love into the relationship than anyone else ever could. Haven't you felt that? The quiet hope that if you just love them enough, they might finally change. But here's what you need to remember. Understanding their psychology does not mean accepting their abuse. Compassion is a beautiful quality. It speaks to the depth of your heart, but it must be balanced with wisdom and boundaries. You can acknowledge the pain that shaped them without surrendering your safety or your soul. Yes, you can feel the sadness of their story, but you are not required to live inside it. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away, allowing them to experience the consequences of their choices rather than shielding them from it. This awareness is not about turning cold or cynical. It is about honoring your gift of empathy and learning to trust your instincts. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a form of intelligence, a superpower that, when understood, can protect you from emotional predators. The world desperately needs people like you, individuals who can pierce through deception, who can sense authenticity, and who refuse to participate in cycles of manipulation. Your intuitive radar evolved for a reason. It's there to guide you through complexity, to keep you safe when charm and charisma might blind others. And while not everyone who stays your empathy is a narcissist, when the red flags stack up, trust what your body and your intuition are telling you. Those signals aren't random feelings. They are data, hard-earned wisdom embedded in your nervous system. Take them seriously. So, what's the takeaway? You continue being who you are, empathetic, perceptive, and courageous. But you do so with discernment. You use your gift not only to connect but also to protect. By doing that, you help create a world where relationships are rooted in honesty, respect, and mutual care. That is the real mission of an awakened empath, and it begins with trusting yourself.